Hey everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Miss Ink Stamps video. Today we're going to be using this Tea Party stamp set. I love the little Mad Hatter, and we're going to be making a tea time card. I'm going to bring in the Flower Shower stencil. It's so great. It has these great embossed lines to make it easy to line up. And so let's go ahead and just get started with our card today. I wanted to make a more of a one layer underneath. It's going to look like it's more than one layer, but the way we do it is going to make it look like one layer. So I've brought in my Tonic platform and I'm using my magnets. You'll notice I did put down a piece of tape at the top because I'm going to do some partial stenciling. And so I've put down my flower stencil, the flower part, and I've pulled out a couple of different colors. We've got our Uncharted Mariner and some cracked pistachio distress oxides. And I'm going to bring in some brushes. We'll blend our little flowers to be that Uncharted Mariner. And like I said, I wanted this to be sort of a one layer underneath. I mean, obviously in the end, it's not going to be because I'm going to have a stamped image on top and everything like that. But this background is going to look like it is more than what it is. And so we'll just keep playing with it and messing with it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But the end result is super fun. All right, so once we're happy with our flower blend, we'll pull off that first stencil. And then, like I said, we'll easily be able to put down the leaves right on top. It also takes care of the centers of the flowers as well. And we're going to use that cracked pistachio. I end up changing my mind and not wanting the cracked pistachio, even though it does show up because these are distress oxides and they layer on top of each other very, very nicely. I, at this point, had decided I'm going to bring in some gold. My color palette is going to be that Uncharted Mariner, that cracked pistachio, and gold. So I'm happy with that, but before I remove my tape, I am going to grab some more of that kind of tape, and we're going to just line it up right on that edge, and then we can peel away that tape because we're going to do that cracked pistachio on the top. So it's going to look like it's two separate colors of cardstock. So like we layered our flowers on top of our cracked pistachio cardstock. And I just think it looks super cool. And this is a fun color combination. I don't think it's one I've done. I did something similar, I think, last week, but I'm kind of on a kick right now, I guess. I love that Uncharted Mariner. Okay, so now I've brought in my gold paint, and I'm going to do some splatter in that upper corner. That's going to be a little bit heavier, thicker splatter at the upper corner. And then this is where I decide we're going to use the gold paint to color the centers of our flowers. It just makes them pop even more, and it doesn't look like much now, but when I bring it up to the camera, you're going to see the shine that this gold paint has. So, dig through your stash. I'm sure you have something similar. If not, I'll have something similar to this linked down below. And then I'll just do some light splatter over the top of that. And then we do need to set this off to the side to dry, although I'm not done with it yet. So there it is. Check out that shine and shimmer from the gold paint. It's so pretty. So pretty. Okay, so we've cleaned up our mess, and now we're going to move on to our coloring. I went ahead and stamped out my little Mad Hatter onto some Express It cardstock using some Memento Tuxedo black ink. It's just a good combination for alcohol marker coloring. And I'm going to do my best to put the colors up on the screen. These are Copic markers, but sometimes when I get into coloring mode, I don't always show you the color, so I'll try to mention them as I go. My lighter color was E50. My darker color is E31 for his skin tone. For his hair, I'm going to start with a base of W8. I want it to be very dark. And so I've got W8, which is a pretty dark color. You could almost call it black, but it is a warm gray tone. And I don't know if the camera's doing a good job of showing you that. But then when I bring in the C10, you'll see that it is a little bit darker. And that's a cool tone, so I thought it would look nice on top of that warm tone. And then I'll just kind of blend that a tiny bit. Okay, so like I said, my color combination, I use that Uncharted Mariner and cracked pistachio and gold. Well, we're going to do the same thing for his outfit. I kind of like to do that. I think that's kind of my MO when I'm coloring. I usually try to pick a color palette and then stick with it. And that color palette is usually not a whole lot more than 3. I mean, obviously I break that rule all the time, but that's kind of rule of thumb for me most of the time is just pick 3 colors and go with it. That takes some of that pressure out for me, I think. When I think about how many colors you could use on his outfit, Sometimes that becomes a little overwhelming for me, so I think that's part of the reason why I just choose 3 colors and call it a day. So we used our B37 and then B39 is our darker shade for that, those blues. I think they're really pretty together, and I think that kind of encompasses that Uncharted Mariner pretty well. And then I'll kind of do some blending out with our B37 when the time comes, but I like that. I think that works pretty well. Couple areas where I kind of miss, and so I was like, oh, we'll do that with the teacups as well. So I'm using that B37 on the teacups, and then I forget his cuffs, so I come back in for that. And then now we're moving on to the color of cracked pistachio, sort of. So this is a G00, so it's a very pale green. And then I bring in, I think it's G03, which is very green, but once it gets a little bit blended, it looks more cracked pistachio. So we'll just blend that a little bit with our G00. And then here's where I bring in the gold paint, and the rest of it is going to be basically colored in that gold paint. So I don't work on mid-tone or anything like that. We're just going straight in with that gold paint and just painting right on this cardstock. Because we aren't using a lot of water, it's okay to color on this kind of cardstock that isn't watercolor cardstock. If I were going crazy with the water, that wouldn't work. But this works okay because, like I said, it's not a lot of water. I'll use it on that little ribbon hanging from his hat, teapot. We'll use it on his scarf. And this type of a paint, if it's really thick, if you put it down with like hardly any water, you could cover up your stamp lines. So I try to be a little bit careful with this because it is a more opaque paint. And then I'm going to do his stripes as well, because why not? And then once we're done with that, I'll show you how sparkly he is, or not sparkly, but shiny. Isn't that fun? Oh my gosh, it's so fun. And then we're going to fussy cut him out eventually. So as I said, I wasn't done with this background. I want a gold stripe on here also. So everything is dry now. I'm bringing in some more of that Post-it tape, and I'm getting a line ready. And then I'm just going to bring in that paint and be really nice and thick with it. So just paint that right on there. It looks like a hot mess here, but putting down that Post-it tape will make it a nice straight line. So I'll peel that away. Hard to believe this background is just one layer. And that base color that I put down, oh, I love that shine, it was more of a light blue. Okay, so now I need my sentiment. I'm going to stamp that right onto my card base. And to do this, I figured I'd put it into my Misty, and I'm going to use a pigment ink because I have that because I have the gold paint splatter on the background. I wanted this to kind of sit on top of that. So a pigment ink would work better than a dye ink. And then I also decided I didn't just like the one there. So I was going to try to do some second generation stamping, but using this VersaFine Clair pigment ink, I stamp it off once and stamp it again. It's still nice and dark. So there isn't a lot of differentiation between the first generation and second generation that I did there. Our card base is a piece of white cardstock that measures 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4. And of course, I'm going to do a little stamping on the inside. This is just some basic stamping using some of that pistachio ink and some of the stamps from our stamp set, that Tea Party stamp set. And so I'll stamp that down. This just adds, just a little something to the inside. You could go crazy with it, but I decided to just go very simple since the outside is nice and fun. And then I'm going to glue down my card panel to my card base, just using some liquid glue. And then I'm going to put some foam squares on the back of our little Mad Hatter, just to give a little dimension. So obviously this isn't a one layer card, but that background definitely looks like it's more than one layer. So I marvel at stuff like that. I think that's fun. All right, and once he's down, that's going to finish off our card for today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I really do appreciate all the love and support that you guys give me. It keeps me producing videos. So thank you, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.